The new MacBook Pros released by Apple are mind-blowing to say the least. And the most satisfying feature of these new MacBook Pros might just be the return of the ports. Yes, you heard it correct, ports are back. Hello and welcome to Product Review Hub. In today's video, we'll do a full review of the 2021 MacBook Pros. If you're new here, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell to receive more videos like this. The new MacBook Pros are available in two screen sizes, the MacBook Pro 14, that's 14 inches, and the MacBook Pro 16, 16 inches. Both of these screen sizes are available on either the new M1 Pro chip or even the more powerful M1 Max chip. Many Mac users were concerned when Apple decided to abandon Intel processors and move the Mac platform to its homegrown Apple Silicon. But that concern was alleviated by the first generation of Macs using Apple's M1 chip, which combined strong performance and impressive battery life. However, it was clear that the first generation M1 Macs, which were released in late 2020, were aimed at mainstream users, and Apple continued to sell Intel-based MacBook Pro models to more demanding professional users. The arrival of the second wave of M1 Macs is thus a critical test for Apple, and it must demonstrate that its new M1 Pro and M1 Max chips can deliver the performance that its professional users require. It's a challenge that Apple appears to have relished, and the new 16-inch MacBook Pro provides an impressive, albeit pricey upgrade for current owners. Firstly, let's talk about the design and features. At first glance, the new MacBook Pro appears to be very similar to its Intel-based predecessor, which was last updated in late 2019. But when inspected closely, some significant differences are revealed. Beginning with Apple's decision to abandon the unpopular Touch Bar, this has been replaced by a more traditional row of physical functional keys. Now that's some throwback innovation, including a much larger escape key, which is a welcome addition. The Touch Bar has been traded for a row of full-height functional keys and full-size Touch ID buttons. The entire keyboard has been updated as well with mechanical keys that Pro users love, but thankfully travel well and feel firm when typing. The 16-inch MacBook Pro 2021 has undergone subtle but significant redesigns. It measures 14.01 into 9.77 into 0.66 inches and weighs 4.7 pounds. 4.8 if you go for the MI Max model, which makes it roughly the same size and just a smidge thicker than the Intel-based 16-inch Pro it replaces. For so long, Apple has made so many sacrifices in the name of thinness that it was about time for the pendulum to swing back, and the extra thickness allows for better cooling and the return of some useful ports. The ports are fantastic and I'm glad they've returned. According to Apple, the MacBook Pro has the most advanced connectivity ever. That's not much of a boost or even a boast, given Apple's long-standing reliance on USB-C as the only interface option on the MacBook line. This new model, however, is brimming with ports and connectors, including 3 USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports, HDMI, a 3.5mm headphone jack, and even a slot for SD/XC cards. The FaceTime camera, which now lives in a notch within the 16.2-inch screen, receives a long overdue 1080p upgrade with no physical privacy to cover included. A few people, especially professional photographers and videographers, are of the opinion that the SD card slot alone is reason enough to upgrade. However, be aware that the ports aren't up to par. The HDMI port is only 2.0, not 2.1, and the SD card slot is only UHS 2, not faster UHS 3 or SD Express. Although the UHS 2 is still fine, as it has a speed of 300 MB per second. The 100% recycled aluminum chassis has a flatter lid than its predecessor, with vents carved out on either side to serve as improved cooling solutions. Various users have claimed that they've never heard the fans work, even when they set the energy mode to high performance. This laptop has also redesigned 6-speaker sound system on the inside. The biggest changes, however, are hidden until you open the lid, at which point you'll be greeted by a large, beautiful 16.2-inch Liquid Retina XDR display framed by bezels that are slightly more 20% thinner on the sides and roughly 60% thinner on the top. But it doesn't include the new notch, a rounded black rectangle that houses the Pro's webcam and protrudes about 0.4 inches from the top bezel. In terms of the camera, Apple combines Full HD resolution with some AI magic to produce surprisingly good image quality for Zoom meetings. It's not quite ready to replace your dedicated 4K webcam, and Apple's AI algorithms do a bit more skin smoothing than I prefer, but it's a significant improvement over the 720p cameras found in the vast majority of laptops. Many professional users will appreciate the new Liquid Retina XDR display and its resolution increase from 3072 by 1920, that's 226 ppi, to 3456 by 2234, that's 254 ppi. The display also supports XDR with a sustained brightness of 1000 nits, peak brightness of 1600 nits, a contrast ratio of 1,000,000 to 1, and Apple's ProMotion feature, which allows the refresh rate to vary dynamically between 47.95 Hz and 120 Hz depending on the content displayed. The Liquid Retina display also supports a variety of color standards such as RGB for web graphics and design, and DCI-P3 for video editing work. And there's even a handy pull-down menu in the display preference panel that lets you quickly select the required color standards for different tasks. Needless to say, when viewed with the naked eye, the display is impressively bright, sharp, and colorful. But it's the technical quality of the display that will have many professional and creative users eagerly eyeing the new MacBook Pro as their future mobile workstation. The notch is one of the most contentious design decision Apple has ever made with the new Pro, but it's definitely something that will grow on you with time, especially if you already use an iPhone. It's also worth noting that the MacBook Pro's display pulls back on either edge of the notch, so Mac OS does a pretty good job of tucking the menu bar into the thin ribbon of extra screen space on either side of the notch, so it ends up feeling more. Even if you don't agree with it right now, you will when you start using the laptop and start noticing the notch after a few minutes of staring into the gorgeous Liquid Retina XDR display. But we cannot but ask ourselves why Apple has refused to add Face ID inside the notch. There is no longer a MacBook Pro logo printed on the bottom bezel below the display, presumably due to the lack of space. Instead, Apple etched it into the bottom of the laptop, which is unquestionably a much better location. Another notable design change in Apple's decision to remove the touch bar in favor of a row of more traditional function keys. I've always found Apple's infamous touch bar difficult to use, so I'm glad to see the company reintroduce a more traditional function row. It makes the laptop feel more like a no-nonsense workhorse for professionals. The MagSafe 3 connector is fantastic. It's a true classic. It's strong enough to drag the MacBook Pro across a desk if yanked straight, but it disconnects instantly if yanked at an angle. I believe it's safe to say that it was sorely missed. The misunderstanding arises at the other end of the MagSafe cable, which is USB-C. All of these machines can be charged via USB-C using any of the ports, and the 14-inch MacBook Pro can be fast charged using a 100-watt USB-C adapter and a USB-C cable that supports that much power. However, only the MagSafe connector connected to the 140-watt or higher power brick can be used to fast charge the 16-inch MacBook Pro. MagSafe is the only port that supports the newest high-power USB-C PD standard. The other ports, however, do not. Furthermore, there's no indication that you are fast charging anywhere, so you simply plug in and hope for the best. Now let's talk about performance and battery. At their keynote, Apple made some big claims about the performance of the M1 Max SoC, with some impressive but hazy charts comparing this chip to the most powerful Intel CPUs and Nvidia GPUs you can get inside a PC laptop. According to Apple, the M1 Max can nearly match the performance of these components while consuming a fraction of the power, allowing the new MacBook Pros to run at full speed even when powered down. Apple's M1 chip's unified design with CPU and GPU cores combined in a single SoC raised concerns about its ability to compete with Intel-based PCs that can offer a discrete GPU to boost graphic performance. The first wave of M1 Max didn't really answer this question, but the M1 Pro and M1 Max appear to be able to provide a fairly emphatic answer. Because so few benchmarks tools currently provide native versions for Apple Silicon processors, benchmark testing for M1 Max remain difficult. The Geekbench 5 suite, however, has one of the first, and the M1 Max scored 1,790 in single-core tests and 12,780 in multi-core performance. This compares to Dell's 17-inch Precision 5750, which has a Core i9 processor and a single-core performance of 1290 and a multi-core performance of 7600. It also is interesting to compare the M1 Max with the first-generation M1 used in the recently updated 24-inch iMac, which scored 1740 single-core and 7700 multi-core. However, the iMac has scored 22,000 in the Geekbench 5 compute test for GPU performance and is left trailing by the M1 Max in the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which breezes ahead to 64,950. Also, various video editors have come out to say that the M1 Max edits video with buttery speeds and exports high-res videos in less time than the $50,000 28-core iMac. Of course, there's battery life to consider, and this is increasingly looking like Apple's ace in the hole for laptops and mobile devices. YouTube videos can be streamed for up to 11 hours using the MacBook's automatic power balancing feature and with the screen brightness set to 50%. That's unheard of for a laptop with such a large, high-resolution display, with competitors like the Dell Precision 5750 only managing a little more than 7 hours. Of course, battery performance will vary when running more demanding graphics and video software, but the new MacBook Pro appears to be capable of workstation-level performance while providing all-day battery life. The new MacBook Pros are pricey, but the top-tier M1 Max and M1 Pro chips demonstrate that Apple's silicon can truly compete with rival PC manufacturers' most powerful mobile workstations. Finally, due to the price, we would recommend these laptops to professionals who require these extra features to complete their work more smoothly and efficiently. However, if you have the extra bucks to cop one of these, then by all means, go for it. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, hit and subscribe in the button, and turn on the notification bell to watch more videos like this. While you're here, check out the other 2 videos on your screen, and I'll